Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint.com is now TradingCardMint.com. Please check out their selection of over 20,000 cards with prices cheaper than TCG Player.
Alright, what is up YouTube? M40. We're going to be doing my deck profile from ARG States this previous weekend. We finished X1, getting effectively second place in the tournament. And, well, unfortunately, I lost to OTT. And the only reason why I ended up losing to the first place OTT deck was because I had to ride this stupid card. And had the situation been any different when I went into the Heritage turn, probably would have been a little bit better. So guys, please check out TradingCardMint.com down below in the description. Enter MCOL40 and save your guys' selves a little bit of money on checkout. If you guys don't know, they are Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint, now Trading Card Mint. So it'd be really cool if you did that. So the reason that this deck is still even relevant in today's meta is because of a little guy we like to call Heritage. This card, at the scaling of its power peak, allowing you to take an effective second turn, is the only reason why this deck can still keep up in today's meta. Now, decks like Coral can still keep up because of the power scales, ARG also because of raw power for premium formats. So there's a lot of development that has kind of been coming out of this, but this deck is still very much a powerhouse, being able to use your resources for free. It's just the unfortunate downside to playing this deck right now is your entire early game is shit. Like, literally, you have to use your stride turn to go, and then you have to have filtered for 2 heal triggers by the time you're done in first striding, or else you just lose. Like, it's kind of how this deck goes. 4 copies of Z. This card is still nuts. Being able to time leap something of your opponent's into another resource of your own, and being able to free stride is why this deck can still keep up even in this current era. Like, I'm actually surprised by the power that this puts in. You actually have to try with this deck now. It's kind of petty to say it like that, but like, you now have to think about your plays. You have to think about like what units you're attacking and things like that with the increase in power. 1G, no reason not to play this, honestly. I like having the 5th extra stride fodder, or the additional name to stride. This can kind of conflict with G assisting sometimes, or just assisting to get for additional resources, but it is another Chrono Jet. It is another rear guard for you to time leap into. Well, this kind of depends on the situation. I don't see any reason not to want to play this. 1 copy of Chronicle. This is one of those cards that when you're playing certain matchups and your opponent tries to counterblast deny you, whether or not they're playing Gize or not, this card gives you the ability to kind of navigate around it with 1 counterblast. So keep in mind that that's what this is used for. Grade 2s, 4 copies of the 10K, also combined with Nightmare Fuel here, being able to power up for additional attacks. Honestly, the best thing that this is used for is getting the 4th attack on your Heritage turn, just to make sure that you can, play the game. That's honestly why this card is so good. Just the additional pressure and the extra card out of hand is so much value. Currently playing 3 copies of this. I kind of want to bump this to 4. The thing that makes this card really good right now is just the fact that you can filter a resource. It's an 11k attacker by itself, but you have to use your counterblast to get to those heal triggers. Still currently playing 2 copies of this. This card's kind of falling to the wayside now. I kind of want to cut this, like I said, go to another copy of this. Same thing with wanting to cut Calibums. Calibum's really good in a format where there are Forerunners, but the problem is, as we evolve out of the Forerunner format, these cards inherently get less value. Most people are now preferring to go with the draw starters, which just make this card less useful. Being able to spin out something for free is pretty good, but that 8k power base on this has just kind of, this card's gone to shit. Like, I'd get more value out of Chrono Spins having 10k base than I think I would out of this. So, just kind of an interesting denomination to note there, that Calibum's kind of losing favor. Same thing with Spearhead. Just cruisings are just getting infinitely better. Grade 1s, 4 copies of Arca. No reason to change this. The recursion that this card gets you as an additional booster if you're GB2 is pretty damn good. Also being able to recur these back from the graveyard seems really good. 4 copies of Draco Kid. This is kind of the reason why I played the additional copy of the Chrono Jet. And you just deck it out of the deck for free, get your Z. You know, this card does so much in the early game. You know, you hit a stand trigger, you just force even more pressure on your opponent. So, a lot of good value just in these cards in general. 4 copies of Jet Fuel. Being able to draw the extra card, fuel into the soul. Like, literally, you just call this as an extra booster to force additional power out of the opponent's hand, and you move on along with your day. That's the reason why this card is good. You multi-purpose on resources. That's honestly the reason why it's good. And then currently 3 copies of this. This card's too damn good. Like, I'm actually surprised. You can call this out of the deck while it's at 1. Or you can time leap 2 into this, which is absurd. Also, the fact that, like, you can use this to get an extra card out of your opponent's hand, especially if you're pushing on, like, the Metal Party turn. Like, so good, actually. Starters, 1 copy of Chrono Drain Z, nothing's changed. I still think that this card is too good. Being able to check top 5 when you ride the 2 seems pretty good, and honestly, it's a starter, so it's probably going to chill back there. 4 copies of Little Sheep. This card is broken, still even to this day. You don't so much restand the rear guard as much as you want to anymore, because sometimes the power scaling can kind of fuck things. But you can use this to be a lot more aggressive. Also, hitting random stands out of nowhere steals games. Like, so good. 4 copies of the Crit That Binds, Countercharge. This card's good, but I want other value. 4 copies of Heartthump. Extra Soul Generation is actually really fucking good in this deck. When we get new triggers, those probably cut. Then 4 copies of Hamtaro. Countercharging and Soul Charging is really damn good. That's all I have to say about that. Now, honestly, the G-Zone's still pretty much the same as Time itself. Only 2 Avenires. This is literally your first stride almost every game. You use this. So in your OTT matchup, if you're playing them, you have to play this card to pressure the opponent. If you can get 2 columns running, you can get an 11k and 11k and hit 2 triggers, or even, you know, booster, have the second column and hit the trigger here. That's how you have to pressure. Like, but this card gives you that. Also, strange things happen with your GB3, where your extra units get power, but this card is nuts. This is your second stride when you can't heritage. Life kind of sucks, but being able to restand while forcing more power from the opponent's hand while Silent Tom's cooking around the corner, definitely something to consider. This thing still bursts down the opponents really, really easily, and this card's actually still nuts. 1 copy of Heritage, still the win con of this deck. Let's be real here. If this deck does not have this, this deck would be a pile of absolute shit. Like, honestly. But because this card exists, this deck has had the ability to hold on in the current format. And this card is just absurd for what it does. 1 copy of Split Pegasus. I don't see any reason to play more than 1 of this. I really don't ever go into this. I think most of the time, most people will prefer to go into this first stride and flip something. I prefer the Avenir pressure. Like, being as aggro with this deck as you can is the reason why you'll win. Strange things happen, as I said. We're playing Altered. There's no reason not to play this. It allows you to fix your shitty hands, and for that, we thank him. 1 copy of Mystery Freeze. Weird Gize things happen in some matchups, so having this to be able to blow out those matchups, honestly, you have no reason not to use this because you have the room. And because you have room, you can make stranger life decisions. 1 copy of Dust. I think this card's shit. Like, we have the worst Zereth Dragon ever. Like, with the new rules, your opponent can guard with grade 2s from their hand. So, I mean, dusting never seems appropriate when you can just heritage. I think this is more like for rogue matchups, but I don't know. I just play it because it's dust. 1 copy of Sabreeze. I haven't gotten into Sabreeze in a while, but the fact that he looms in the format just means he's even better. G-Guardians, 1 copy of Uluru for regeneration, 1 copy of Head Around to make sure that we can hit more of the pesky, troublesome cards, 2 copies of Rafana, just for Dominate, honestly. Like, you need it for that matchup in case somebody's still playing it. And then 2 copies of the reason why we can heritage turn 1. I kind of wanted to play 3 of these, honestly. A couple of weird situations came up where a third kind of would have been warranted. So that's the current list, guys. Please check out our friends at tradingcardmint.com. Down below in the description, please enter MCO40 on checkout, save you guys selves a wee little bit of money. And until next time, on the next deck profile, we have a lot more playtesting to come, and it's definitely going to be a ride. Alright guys, peace out.